Imagine this. You're walking peacefully down the street, and suddenly someone approaches you and says something hurtful. Perhaps they make fun of your appearance, question your worth, or try to belittle your achievements. What would you do? Most people get angry, try to defend themselves passionately, and let their emotions take control. But Machiavelli knew this 500 years ago, something many still don't understand. Anyone who allows hurtful words to affect them has already lost. From the moment you react, you've lost. From the moment you let someone else control your emotions, you've let them control you. But what if I told you there's another way? In this video, I'll explain everything. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to give you 10 dark laws of Machiavellian strength that will make you untouchable. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to walk through life with the kind of calmness that makes people fear your silence more than anyone else's rage. Subscribe to the Machiavelli Code blog for more bold and honest content on psychology, dominance, and social power. Hit the like button if you're done pretending to be nice. Watch until the end, and drop this in the comments. I am cold. I am calm. I am untouchable. Now, let's begin. 1. Expect disrespect before it arrives. Here's the mistake weak people make. They expect the world to be fair. They believe that if they are kind, people will automatically respect them. They think honesty alone will shield them from harm. But Niccolo Machiavelli saw the truth centuries ago, and his words still cut through the illusions we hold today. The reality is this: disrespect is not an accident. It is deliberate. It's a tool, a weapon people use to test you, to measure how far they can push before you break. When someone mocks you, dismisses you, or undermines you, they aren't simply being careless. They're probing for weakness. They want to see if you will react, if you will lose your composure, if you will hand over your power. Most people are shocked when disrespect appears. They take it personally, as if life has betrayed them. But this is the difference between the strong and the weak. The weak man curses the storm, while the wise man brings a coat. Life will never stop raining insults, betrayal, and unfairness. The choice is whether you stand there helpless or prepare yourself and walk through untouched. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last." The fool waits until he is humiliated before he learns the lesson. The wise man expects betrayal, expects insult, and therefore cannot be shaken by it. So from this day forward, assume that disrespect is coming. Expect it from strangers, colleagues, even those closest to you. Not because everyone is evil, but because human nature is selfish, and power is always being tested. And when it comes, because it will, you will not waste your breath on anger, nor will you beg for validation. You will remain calm, composed, and unbothered. That is real strength. Not shouting, not revenge, but the quiet power of a man who refuses to be moved. The moment you stop expecting fairness, you stop being a victim. And the moment you stop reacting to disrespect, you become untouchable. 2. Master the art of silence. Silence is your most dangerous weapon. People underestimate it because they are addicted to noise, to proving themselves, to firing back the moment they feel attacked. But think carefully. When someone insults you, what they truly want is not their own words. It's your reaction. They want your anger, your defense, your energy. They feed on it. The moment you give it to them, you confirm their power. But silence? Silence destroys their script. It throws them into doubt. It makes them question if they've miscalculated. Did they underestimate you? Do you know something they don't? Why aren't you reacting like everyone else? That uncomfortable pause becomes more powerful than 1,000 words. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds fear. People can prepare for anger. They can prepare for a fight. But they can't prepare for stillness. They can't prepare for someone who refuses to play their game. Yet here lies the danger. Silence can either be strength or weakness. The weak man stays silent because he has no courage to speak. His silence is submission. But the strong man stays silent because he chooses to rise above. His silence is strategy. The key is in the presence behind your silence. Does it feel like retreat, or does it feel like dominance? Do you shrink, or do you tower? True power comes when your silence radiates control, when people can sense that you could speak, could fight, but you decide it is beneath you. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this: words may win the crowd, but silence unsettles the soul. Don't waste energy on every attack. Don't prove yourself where proof isn't needed. Let your silence do the work. Because nothing shakes a man more than realizing his insults could not even stir your breath. That is strength. That is strategy. That is the silence Machiavelli would have called a weapon sharper than any blade. 3. Control emotions or be controlled by them. Your emotions are signals, nothing more. They are like warning lights on a dashboard, telling you what's happening inside. But here's the problem. Most people don't treat them as signals. They treat them as commands. Anger rises, and they instantly lash out. Sadness comes, and they collapse into despair. Fear whispers, and they obey without resistance. In that moment, they are no longer in control. They are slaves to every feeling that enters their body. Machiavelli understood something most people never learn. Control begins the moment you stop letting emotions dictate your actions. You cannot prevent yourself from feeling. Anger, fear, jealousy, rage, all of it will come. But strength is not about eliminating emotions. It's about mastering them. The strong man feels everything, but he reveals nothing. He is not empty. He is full of storms, but the storms do not leak out uncontrolled. The master decides when, how, and if those emotions will ever be shown. This makes him powerful, because while others are predictable puppets to their feelings, he remains unreadable. And unreadable men are dangerous. Machiavelli wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved." And nothing inspires fear more than the man who stays calm when everyone expects him to explode. Imagine insulting someone and they smile. Imagine threatening someone and they remain still. That calmness is unsettling. It signals that they are not moved by the same triggers that control ordinary people. Understand this. People expect your emotions. They anticipate them, plan around them, even manipulate them. But when you deny them that access, when you control your emotions like a king controls his army, you leave them powerless. So the next time anger rises in you, pause. Let it burn quietly inside, but don't hand it over. Because true strength is not in striking back. It's in showing the world that nothing and no one can command your soul without your permission. That is how you become untouchable. 4. Never defend too much. Here's a secret most people never realize until it's too late. Defense is weakness. The harder you try to justify yourself, the smaller you look. The more you explain, the more you confess. Strong people don't waste their breath proving their worth to everyone who questions it. They don't argue with every insult thrown at them. Because every time you defend, you admit the other person's opinion has weight. You're saying, what you think matters to me. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Power is not about explaining. Power is about controlling the frame. If someone says, "You'll never succeed," the weak man panics and lists his plans, his credentials, his dreams, begging to be believed. But the strong man doesn't take the bait. He shrugs and replies, "That's an interesting opinion." And then he moves forward as if nothing was said. No defense, no argument, just dismissal. And that dismissal is devastating. Why? Because it shows that the other person's attempt to wound you didn't even register. You didn't take the hit because you refused to step into their frame. Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." That is the essence of strength. Let people speculate. Let them doubt. Let them gossip. None of it touches you as long as you refuse to hand them validation. Think of it like this. A lion doesn't explain why it roars. A king doesn't defend every decree. And you? You don't need to justify who you are to anyone. Your silence, your calmness, and most of all, your results will speak louder than any defense ever could. So the next time someone questions you, resist the urge to explain, smile, dismiss it, walk on, because the man who never defends is the man who shows he doesn't need to, and that is a power no one can take from you. 5. Detach from opinions, both good and bad. This one is brutal, but it's the truth. If you live for praise, you will die from criticism. People often believe that insults are the only thing that weakens them, but they overlook the other side of the trap. Compliments can control you just as much, sometimes even more. Think about it. If your happiness depends on someone praising you, then your identity is not in your own hands. You are giving strangers the power to lift you up or tear you down. A man who collapses when he is criticized is weak, yes, but the man who can't live without approval is just as fragile, because he is still chained to the opinions of others. Machiavelli warned about this in his own way. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. What does that mean for you? It means not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion is worthy of your reaction. Surround yourself with people who sharpen you, who challenge you, who care about your growth. Everyone else? Just noise. And noise is best ignored. Detachment is the answer. Detach from praise just as much as you detach from criticism. If someone compliments you, accept it politely, but don't build your identity around it. If someone insults you, hear it, but don't let it cut into your soul. Both are passing winds, temporary and unreliable. Instead, stand on your own foundation. Define your worth by your actions, your discipline, your results, not by what others say. That way, when the world applauds, you don't lose yourself in vanity, and when the world mocks, you don't crumble into despair. Real strength is not in silencing critics or chasing applause. Real strength is standing so firmly in who you are that no praise can inflate you and no insult can diminish you. That is the freedom Machiavelli would call true power, the freedom of a man who belongs only to himself. 6. Reward control, punish reaction. Self-control doesn't come from willpower alone. Willpower is like a spark. It burns bright for a moment, then fades. Discipline is different. Discipline lasts. It is the structure you build around yourself so that when emotions flare, you don't collapse. Most people think they can simply will themselves into strength. They believe that in the heat of the moment, they'll rise above anger, temptation, or fear. But without discipline, willpower fails. and when it fails, they fall back into the same patterns of weakness. Machiavelli understood this. He knew that passion is unreliable. Passion burns hot, but it burns out. Systems of discipline, however, forge consistency, and consistency is what builds real power. Here's how it works. Every time you remain calm when provoked, reward yourself. Recognize the victory, even if it feels small. You prove to yourself that you are not controlled by others, and every time you lose control, every time you lash out, overreact, or let emotions dictate your behavior, discipline yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Make the cost of losing control greater than the temporary satisfaction of reacting. In doing this, you train your own brain. Calmness becomes rewarding. Reacting becomes costly. Slowly, without realizing it, composure becomes automatic. You no longer have to fight yourself in every situation because discipline has already set the path for you. Think of it like a soldier. He doesn't rely on willpower in battle. He relies on training. His habits carry him when his emotions want to take over. That's what you must build. Habits of discipline so strong that they override weakness before it even appears. True self-control isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about designing a system where emotions no longer control you. And the man who masters this discipline doesn't just survive chaos. He thrives in it. Because passion may inspire, but discipline makes you untouchable. 7. Use indifference as a weapon. Here's the paradox of power. The less you care, the more people care about you. It sounds simple, almost unfair, but it's the truth. Human nature is wired in a strange way. The more desperate you are for attention, the less respect you receive. But the moment you stop chasing approval, the moment you show genuine indifference, suddenly people lean in. They wonder why you don't need them, and that curiosity turns into power. When someone attacks you, they expect resistance. They want a fight, an argument, a reaction they can feed on. But indifference? Real, quiet indifference. It destroys them. Not sarcasm, not forced calmness, but a genuine lack of concern. Nothing drives a manipulator more insane than realizing you cannot be moved, not because you are pretending, but because you truly don't care. This is where most people fail. They think indifference means acting cold on the surface while still burning inside. But manipulators can sense that. They can smell the hidden frustration. True indifference comes when you've trained yourself not to give value to the noise at all. It's not silence from fear. It's silence from strength. Machiavelli captured this with his famous line, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves." One must therefore be both a lion and a fox. The fox is clever enough to avoid traps. This is your indifference, your refusal to be baited into reaction. The lion, on the other hand, is powerful enough to ignore the barking dogs beneath him. This is your strength, your calm refusal to be dragged down by noise. Be both. Outsmart the traps of manipulation like a fox. Overpower the petty distractions like a lion. And above all, remember, the man who shows he doesn't need to fight is often the one who has already won. Indifference isn't weakness, it is a weapon. And when used correctly, it makes you untouchable. 8. Redirect energy into power. Every insult, every attack, every attempt to drag you down, they're not hurtful because of what they are. They're useful because of what they contain. Raw energy. Energy that most people squander on shouting back, on defending, on replaying the wound in their heads until it consumes them. They waste it on emotion. They drain themselves fighting battles that don't matter. But what if you treated that energy like currency instead of poison? What if, the moment someone throws dirt at you, you pocket the weight and convert it into fuel for the life you actually want to build? That's the difference between victims and architects. Victims throw away the fuel. Architects store it, refine it, and turn it into power. Turn insult into discipline. Let a sneer become your next training session. Let criticism light a fire under a project you've been putting off. When someone says you can't, don't prove them wrong out of pride. Prove them wrong with results. Let their doubt be the spark that forces you to work harder, to learn more, to outlast everyone who ever counted you out. That fury you feel, refine it into focus. That humiliation, hammer it into resolve. Machiavelli didn't admire complacency. He admired men who changed the rules. I'm not interested in preserving the status quo. I want to overthrow it. Use that as your creed. Don't defend the world as it is. Build the world as it should be. Their negativity becomes raw material, bricks for your foundation, fuel for your furnace, a map of the weak points you will turn into advantages. This is strategy, not spite. It's not about revenge. It's about conversion. Convert every shove into momentum. Convert every insult into an investment in your future self. Overthrow their expectations not by noise, but by results so quiet and so massive that no one remembers the taunts. Only the empire you built despite them. That's how losers become legendary, not by arguing with critics, but by using critics as the stone under their feet to climb higher. 9. Practice cold calculation instead of revenge. Weak men confuse pride with power. They think revenge will restore their dignity, but in truth, it only exposes their fragility. They strike blindly, not because it benefits them, but because their ego demands it. And in that blindness, they lose more than they gain: time, energy, and focus that could have been invested in building something lasting. Strong men see revenge differently. To them, it is not an instinct but a weapon. Something sharp, to be used rarely, and only when the outcome justifies the cost. Machiavelli understood this. He knew that every act of retaliation must be weighed like a business transaction. Does it advance your position? Does it secure your foundation? Does it create an advantage that silence or patience cannot? If not, the strike is wasted, and wasted strikes make you weaker. This is why the wise do not answer every insult. They do not chase down every enemy. They know that many battles are nothing but traps, designed to bleed you of strength. Instead, they step aside and let time finish what rage cannot. Indifference, in itself, is often the most devastating blow. Nothing unsettles an enemy more than realizing you simply do not care. But when the answer is yes, when retaliation protects you, strengthens your hand, or removes a threat from the board, the strong do not hesitate. They strike with precision, without emotion, and without warning. Not for pride, not for validation, only for power. Machiavelli's lesson is simple. The fool fights for pride. The master fights only for power. The difference between the two is not strength, it's strategy. Pride reacts, power calculates. And in the long game, calculation always wins. 10. Detachment makes you untouchable. Here's the truth most people never learn. No one can truly hurt you unless you hand them the weapon. Insults, betrayal, gossip. These things only pierce when they strike the places you've left unguarded. The man who clings too tightly to praise will crumble under criticism. The one desperate for love will shatter at rejection. Weakness isn't what others do to you, it's what you allow inside. Detachment is the shield, but don't mistake it for coldness or apathy. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care with strength, not desperation. You love deeply, but you never beg. You strive for success, but you don't collapse when failure comes. You face storms without losing your footing because your foundation is not built on the fragile opinions of others. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against." The man who stands firmly on his own values, detached from the need for validation, is far harder to manipulate. People may try to provoke you, tempt you, or unsettle you, but when nothing shakes your calm, you become something rare. You become untouchable. And here's the paradox. People may not always love the untouchable man, but they cannot help but respect him. Respect is heavier than love, because respect is tied to fear, admiration, and recognition of strength. Love is given freely, but respect is earned, and once you have it, it commands power. The ultimate law is this: master detachment. Stand so firm in yourself that no insult, no betrayal, no setback can move you. When you do, you don't just survive the games of others, you rise above them, and in rising above, you gain the only kind of power that lasts. If you've listened this far, you now hold what most people will never learn, the 10 Machiavellian laws of becoming unbothered. Remember this: expect disrespect, master silence, control emotions, never over-defend, detach from opinions, train your discipline, use indifference as a weapon, redirect attacks into fuel, choose battles with cold calculation, and detach so deeply that nothing can break you. The weak react, the strong respond, but the masters, they do neither. They walk through life calm, cold, and untouchable. Now drop this in the comments: I am cold, I am calm, I am untouchable. And if this video gave you strength, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe for more Machiavellian wisdom. Because in a world where everyone is fighting for your reaction, the most dangerous thing you can do is give them nothing.